Mid-20th century American breweries like Schaefer's, Blatz's, and Ham's were deeply rooted in their communities, producing beers that became staples for millions of people, whether at backyard barbecues, family dinners, or the local pub after work. Their branding, from colorful cans to catchy slogans, turned these beers into recognizable icons that connected people across regions. As the beer industry evolved, many of these breweries struggled to compete with the marketing budgets and distribution networks of large national brands. The rise of lighter beers and changing consumer tastes further strained their ability to stay relevant. Mergers and acquisitions followed, leading to the disappearance of many names that once defined the American beer landscape. Today, these brands serve as snapshots of a vibrant era in beer history, reminding enthusiasts of a time when beer was not just a beverage, but part of daily rituals and regional identity. Schaefer beer was a major player in the American brewing scene, crafted by the F&M Schaefer Brewing Company in Brooklyn, New York. Founded in 1842, it became a national success story by the 1960s, peaking in 1962 with an impressive 12 million barrels sold. Known for its crisp, clean taste and eye-catching red, white, and blue can, Schaefer was a staple in many households. However, the 1970s and 80s brought challenges as consumer tastes shifted. Schaefer struggled to keep up with the changing market, leading to its acquisition by the Stroh Brewery Company in 1981. Today, while Schaefer still exists under the Pabst label, it lacks the independent spirit it once had, leaving many to reminisce about its golden days. Burgermeister beer was a budget-friendly brew that rose to fame in the 1960s, owned by the Burgermeister Brewing Corporation. At its peak in 1967, it sold a staggering 18 million barrels, making it one of the most popular beers of the era. Known for its affordability and catchy slogan, "It's Burgermeister time," it became a go-to choice for many. However, as consumer preferences shifted towards pricier, more premium beers in the 70s and 80s, Burgermeister struggled to maintain its market share. By the late 1980s, it faded from shelves, becoming a relic of the past, leaving behind a bittersweet nostalgia for its loyal fans. Drury's beer enjoyed a loyal following in the Midwest during the 1960s, originally brewed by the G.O. Rowell Brewing Company in Wheeling, West Virginia. It peaked in 1968 with 75 million barrels sold, known for its smooth, easy-drinking taste and iconic green glass bottle. The brand even had a memorable mascot, Mr. Drury, who charmed audiences in advertisements. However, the 1970s brought hard times as competition from national brands increased. After being sold to the Associated Brewing Company in 1963, Drury's bounced around between different owners, eventually disappearing from store shelves by the late 1980s. A revival attempt in 2011 failed to recapture the magic of the original, leaving Drury's as a fond memory for many. Drury's Old Stock Ale was a specific type of beer brewed by Drury's Brewery, known for its rich malt flavor. While exact sales figures are hard to come by, Drury's as a whole reached its peak in 1968, contributing to the overall success of the brand. Unfortunately, like its sibling beers, Drury's Old Stock Ale faced challenges in the 1970s due to increased competition and ownership changes. Despite attempts to revive the brand, Drury's Old Stock Ale remains a shadow of its former self, a reminder of the changing tides in the beer industry and the challenges faced by many breweries during this time. Falstaff beer, brewed by the Falstaff Brewing Corporation in St. Louis, Missouri, was known for its easy-drinking lagers and memorable slogan, "Falstaff, the refreshing taste." The brand peaked in 1965, rivaling major players like Schlitz and Miller with over 7 million barrels sold. However, the 1970s brought increased competition and a shift in consumer preferences towards lighter beers, leading to a downturn for Falstaff. The company underwent a series of mergers and acquisitions, ultimately losing its independent identity. By the late 1980s, Falstaff had faded from most store shelves, leaving behind a legacy that many beer enthusiasts still remember fondly. Falls City Beer, a Louisville legend brewed by the Falls City Brewing Company, was established in 1905. It enjoyed a prosperous run in the 1960s, competing with national brands and reaching a peak of 750,000 barrels sold annually. Known for its light-bodied pale lager, Falls City captured the hearts of many locals with its slogan, "Falls City, Louisville's finest." However, the 1970s proved challenging as competition from national brands increased. After being acquired by the Human Brewing Company in 1975, Falls City slowly faded from shelves despite a revival attempt in 2010. Today, it remains a regional player, a shadow of its former glory in the 1960s. Goebel beer was a Detroit favorite brewed by the Goebel Brewing Company, founded in 1873. By the 1960s, it was a household name in Detroit, known for its quality lagers and catchy slogan, "Goebel, the Goebel beer." However, the 1970s brought a shift in consumer preferences towards lighter beers, and Goebel struggled to adapt. Acquired by the Stroh Brewery Company in 1979, Goebel's presence began to shrink, and by the early 2000s, it had faded from most store shelves. Today, while the rights to Goebel beer are held by Pabst Brewing Company, it remains largely forgotten, leaving behind memories of its heyday in Detroit. Ham's beer, brewed by the Theodore Ham Brewing Company in St. Paul, Minnesota, was a popular American lager, founded in 1865. By the 1960s, Ham's had become a favorite at barbecues and social gatherings, peaking in 1968 with 7.8 million barrels sold. Known for its smooth taste and iconic red can, Ham's was a staple in many households. However, the 1970s saw a major shift in consumer preferences towards lighter beers, and Ham's struggled to adapt. The company went through a series of acquisitions, and by the early 2000s, Ham's had faded from most store shelves, leaving behind a legacy that many beer enthusiasts still cherish. Lucky Lager, a Californian icon brewed by the General Brewing Company, was established in 1933. It quickly gained a loyal following, becoming the second best-selling beer in California by 1937. Known for its crisp, clean taste, Lucky Lager stood out on store shelves with its classic red, white, and blue can. However, the 1970s and 80s saw a rise in the popularity of national brands, and Lucky Lager struggled to keep pace. Eventually acquired by Pabst Brewing Company in 1999, Lucky Lager is no longer widely available, leaving behind a legacy that many West Coast beer lovers still remember fondly. Narragansett beer, a Rhode Island legend brewed by the Narragansett Brewing Company, was established in 1890. By the 1960s, it became the #1 selling brand in New England, known for its smooth, easy-drinking lagers. Their iconic slogan, "Hi neighbor, have a Narragansett," became a familiar refrain throughout the region. However, the 1970s brought a shift in the brewing landscape, and Narragansett struggled to compete with national brands. Production ceased in 1981, but in 2012, a group of investors revived the brand, showcasing the enduring love many have for this classic beer.